Chapter 2 for Sociology, Methods of Research. When we talk about research, research simply means you're gathering information to create a new knowledge, or you are using an existing information to generate new concepts. You get what I just said here now? When we talk about research, it means you are trying to seek new knowledge about something, or you are using an existing information to generate a new concept. That is what research is about. Do you get that?
Yeah.
So go down. Yes, before you start, research involves gathering evidence. What ways do you know of already for gathering evidence? For example, if you wanted to find out about the family life of people you know, in what different ways could you do this? So this is just a reflection about it. So we'll move on now. So types of data, methods, and research design. The differences between primary and secondary sources of data and between quantitative and qualitative data. So we're going to start with different types of research. Now that we know what research is, gathering information to generate new concepts, that gathering old information to generate new concept, or gathering new information to create or to come up with a new idea. So we start with primary data. So primary data, it involves information collected personally by a researcher. The researcher may use a range of methods such as questionnaires, interviews, and observational studies. So we call it primary data because it means it is first hand, and it is done by the researcher itself, him or herself. So ways in which to carry out this type of research is through questionnaires, interviews, one-on-one interviews, or observation. Okay. So what are the strengths of primary data or primary research? One, the researcher has complete control over how data is collected, by whom, and for what purpose. In addition, when researcher designs and carries out their own research, they have greater control over the reliability and validity of the data, as well as how representative it is. Now, I have to explain what reliability and validity is here. So, for research, for primary data, it simply means I have control over it. So, I'm carrying out the research. So, everything that surrounds the research, I know it first hand. So, it means I have control over whatever information I need to gather, whoever I need to gather information from, whatever source, and whatever reason I have to gather those information. Everything is between me. So I have liberty over that. So the control over reliability and validity of the data, it is reliable if after sorting it out, we can refer back to it every now and then. That makes it reliable. That means you can refer back to it and it's still going to give you the same result. That is reliability. Then for validity, it means you are ensuring that whatever research you carry out, it is objective, not subjective. Do you understand? So that is about the strength. So for primary data, you have control over it, you have a reason for doing it, and the likelihood of it being reliable and valid is high because you are the one carrying it out because of your own purpose. Then what are the problems about primary research or primary data? It can be time-consuming to design, construct, and carry out, especially if it involves personally interviewing large numbers of people. Primary research can also be expensive. In addition, the researcher may have difficulty gaining access to that target group, Some people may refuse to participate, or in the case of historical research, potential respondents may no longer be alive. So the problems about, or the limitations about primary research. One, it's time consuming. It's about gathering information. So it is real life, it's the field. So to put people together, respondents are not easy to put together. Respondents are those we research upon, that we seek answers from. Do you understand? So it's difficult to gather respondents and put them in order. It's difficult, especially if you have to interview them, large numbers of people. Some you don't even have time. They feel that they don't have time for you. They don't have that time to tend or to offer you so that you can carry out whatever research you want to do. And also sometimes people that you want to research about are even not alive. Yeah. And because they are not alive, it becomes difficult for you to carry out that research because that is the main purpose. So based on what we said about primary research has a purpose. The purpose is known by the researcher. So now that you have a purpose, I need to make a research about Nelson Mandela, but Nelson Mandela is dead. Yes. So how do I go about it? The only thing I have left is information about him in the past. So whatever those informations are, they are no more primary.
They're not primary.
Yeah, because it is written.
It's already written.
Yeah. So because when we talk about primary data, it is being created. Yeah. So it
It's
means
not existent.
it's never in existence. So that's the problem about primary research. I think it's clear.
Yes.
We talked about the potential respondents which may no longer be alive. Some people do not have time to, they don't have that luxury of time to give to you. They don't have time to give you that audience you need for you to ask them questions. Some questionnaires will be given out and they won't even come back. Those are things about primary research. I think it's clear.
Yes.
So go to secondary research or secondary data. Is that data that is already exists in some form, such as documents, government reports, statistics, personal letters and diaries, or previous research completed by other sociologists. So they are previous research. So they are carried out previously by a researcher or government information statistics. So all these things are desk research. They are already there. They are not primary.
Just added extra information.
Yes, so they are not primary. I think it's clear.
Yes.
So some forms of secondary data such as official statistics may be highly reliable because the data is collected consistently in the same way from the same sources. This type of data is also more likely to represent what it claims to represent. Because it is an official statistic, this is mainly from government. Government always have a purpose, so it might make it to be reliable. And government will not just spend its budget on what it's not part of its budget. Because if government doesn't spend, government spends based on the financial budget, the financial plan. So if government has to spend on certain research methodology, it would have meant that it is part of what government was supposed to spend on at that moment. So that makes it very valid and reliable. Do you get the point here? So what is the problems about secondary data? Secondary data is not always produced with the needs of sociologists in mind. For example, official definitions of poverty, class, or ethnicity may be different from sociological definitions. Sources such as personal documents can be unreliable. Some forms of secondary data, such as historical documents, may only reflect the views of single individual rather than representing wider opinions. Secondary research. The problems about secondary research is one, they are mostly not reliable. Why is it not unreliable? It is mostly unreliable because it is carried out for the purpose of that individual that carried it out. So you using it might be outdated, it might not go with the latest information that you needed. So it's not always going to be what you are expecting. That's the first point. The second point about it is that official statistics or official data is not the same as sociological data. It's government. Government has boundaries. They have specific reasons for carrying out their research. So whatever research, whatever purpose they carry out the research for, it might not be in sociological terms. Why? Because for sociologists, they don't have interest of the people. They have interest of the history they need to create. Do you understand? So for government care about the people. So whatever government definition for poverty might not be the same definition of God. It might not be the same definition for sociologists. So sociologists have different perspectives. Government has another perspective, and governments would never be sociologists because sociologists are experts. They are skilled. They are specialists in that field. So it means no matter what research government carries out, it's still going to lack that validity and reliability that a sociologist would give. Do you understand? So that's about the limitation of secondary data. So we're going to quantitative and qualitative data. So we have quantitative data. When we talk about quantitative data, it means numerical figure, numerical values. So quantitative data expresses information numerically in one of three ways. One, a raw number such as the total number of people who live in a society, that's population. A percentage of the number of people per 100 in the population, for example, around 80% of India follows the Hindu religion. So this is still, we can use a raw number like 1, 2, 3, then we can use a percentage. Then a rate or the number of people per 1,000 in the population, which we can use for birth rate, death rate, net migration. So we can use rate, we can use percentage or raw numbers for numerical data. That is quantitative. Is it clear? So what are the strengths of quantitative data? One, the ability to express relationships statistically can be useful if the researcher does not need to explore the reasons for people's behavior. If they simply need to compare numbers. Numbers we call it facts and figures. So numbers sometimes are valid because numbers do not lie. Do you understand? So if the research does not involve finding opinion about people, then think about numerical, which is quantitative. That's the point there. Quantitative data allows sociologists to summarize sources of information and make comparisons. Statistical comparisons and correlations can test whether a hypothesis is true or false. They can also track changes in the behavior of the same group over time. So there's always correlation, which means you're talking about differences in different variables. Why it is A here and why it is B here, why it is X here, why it is Y here. So correlation means you're finding differences between two different variables. And numbers can really allow this to happen. Because with numbers, you know how much more we have, how less we have. Quantitative research is more reliable because it is easier to replicate the study. Standardized questions that do not need change, for example, can be asked of different groups or the same group at different times. The result can then be quantified and compared. If the answers are the same or very similar, then the research is more likely to be reliable. I told you about reliability from the beginning. When you do something, and in the course of repeating it, it gives you the same result. That is reliability. And I just talked about facts and figures now. Figures do not lie, like I said. Because figures do not lie, irrespective of what it is. 1 plus 1 will always be 2. If 0 plus 1 plus 1 will always give you 2. So irrespective of how well you put them or place them, the figures are still going to be the same figure. So that makes it reliable. Quantitative data are always reliable. It's a strength too. Quantitative data also makes it easier for researchers to remain objective. They do not need to have a close personal involvement with the subject of the study. So their personal views or biases are less likely to get in the way or to intrude the data collection process. For statistics, we have 100 people. It is known as 100 people. We wouldn't need to care if it is tall, short, big, small, black, white. We don't need those things. We only need figures. So in as much as we need 100 people, we are able to get 100 people. So the subject is 100. The bone of contention is 100 people. How big or small, how curly their hair is or rough their hair is, we don't need it. So that means we can be objective at any point in time. So it makes the data collected to be more reliable and more valid because it doesn't have to be biased. So we need 100 people, we have 100 people. We call it people. We are not talking about big, small, black, white, yellow, no. So we only talk about 100 people. So because it is figure, it is numerical, it is more objective. But when it is about attitude, opinion, it is more subjective. So there we'll be talking about long, short people, tall people, black, white. So it's about opinion. I think the point is clear. So most quantitative research are reliable and they are free from bias. You know what bias means? It means you are influenced by certain situations to change the results. So what are the problems about quantitative data? One, quantification is often achieved by placing the respondent in an artificial social setting in order to control the responses and the data collected. So you need to place the respondent in an artificial social setting means whoever you need to ask questions from, you have to place them in your own situation. They need to be in a situation that allows you to ask them whatever you need to ask them. Do you get the point I'm making here or not? No. I need to carry out a research, and it is quantitative. So we need 100 people. So how are we going to be able to get these 100 people? So for these 100 people, they need to be in a place that allows us to do the counting. So that means whatever settings we have, it must suit our research. So it means it is not always natural. It is artificial and it is a setting. So we would arrange it to make it what it is. Do you get the point? Yeah. You need to carry out a research, quantitative research. So it means maybe you need figures, numbers of people. You need to carry out a survey or statistics about people. So it means you need to carry, let's say for example, census. Census means head count of people. So you need to do head count. It means they have to be restricted in certain area so that you don't allow them to go out or to come in so that you don't miss out the numbers. So it means every quantitative data needs social settings. And for social settings, it means settings that suit the purpose. So it is not your own terms here. It is the terms of the purpose.
Purpose?
The purpose, the reason for the research. Oh, we are carrying out a census. A census means not the way you want it. the way it will suit the research.
Okay.
That is the point they are making here.
Understood.
Do you understand? So it means you are restricted based on the fact that they need to carry out a research on you. People rarely, if ever, encounter situations where they are asked to respond to a list of questions from a stranger or have their behavior observed in a laboratory. So we call it quantitative data. The problem about quantitative data here, is that you won't be able to ask people who you don't know questions or information. I can't just walk up to you and you don't know me and I start questioning you.
Questions, yeah.
You still feel remorse. You wouldn't want to. You won't feel free to give response.
Isn't it primary the research for you to go ask interviews face to face?
Yes, it's primary. But when it comes to statistics, it means one-on-one. It means head count. It means numbers. So for quantitative research, sometimes the situation needs familiarity.
Yeah.
To get the point here.
To ask them mathematical questions.
No, it's not really mathematical questions. They are about numbers. Numbers of how many people are saying in this house? 5. How many boys?
Okay,
These are what quantitative data is about.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
So for you to give out this information, you will like
to someone you don't know.
No, it's difficult.
Yeah.
That is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
And they have their behavior observed. You cannot observe people's behavior in the laboratory. It's not physics, it's not chemistry, it's not acid or so it's difficult. Some argue that it is impossible to capture people's normal behavior or collective responses when the subjects are placed in such I told you earlier, I said it is not natural, it's artificial. So because it is an artificial society or environment, you're going to feel it that things are not in the right settings. So answers you give, responses you give might be influenced by the way the society is, the way the situation is. So that might not give you reliability. Quantitative data only captures a relatively narrow range of information, that who, what, when, and where of people's behavior. So it's still restricted to certain limits.
Yeah.
Quantitative data does not usually reveal the reasons for behavior because it lacks depth. The more detailed the behavioral data, the more difficult it is to quantify. As a result, quantitative data is often seen as surface level only data and superficial. So when it becomes in depth, how many people are living here? 7. It's still fine. It's still in the surface. But when you are trying to go in more detailed, then it will move from being quantitative. You don't get the point? We're using sensors as an example. The head count. I'm here already. I'm getting information about your family. How many are you guys? We are 7. Okay. Now, each of you, what do you do? How do you do this? Now, going in details more. When you start going in depth, it comes to behavioral data.
Yeah.
And that is difficult to quantify.
Difficult to say. Yeah.
Yes. And it's difficult for you to express to people. You can't say things fully.
Yeah, sure.
So mostly when it comes to opinion, behavior, attitude, it is difficult to quantify.
Yes.
Because it is in-depth, it's an in-depth analysis. So that is the point.
Personal as well.
And it's personal, yes. Is it clear?
Yes.
So go to qualitative data. Qualitative data aims to capture the quality of people's behavior by exploring the why rather than the what, when, and where. So it involves questions about how people feel about their experiences and can be used to understand the meanings applied to behavior. For example, in the US, Venkatesh in 2009 studied the young gang from the viewpoints of its members, while Goffman, 61, examined the experiences of patients in a mental institution. Both were trying to capture the quality of people's behavior. What the subjects understand how they feel and most importantly why they behave in particular ways in different situations. So when it comes to qualitative data, it involves the why, not the what, the when, and the where. Because the what, the where, and the when are numbers. But the why is talking about your reason why certain things are done. You're 7 years old. Okay, that's quantitative. How are you 7 years old? You start talking about your birth age, this, that. You're going in depth.
Yes.
So this is what qualitative data is about. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So what are the strengths of qualitative data? The aim of qualitative research is to understand people's behavior. So because it's the why situation. So they must be allowed to talk and act freely. This allows the researcher to capture the complex reasons for behavior. Qualitative methods such as participant observation. When we talk about participant observation, let me just explain that. We call it participant observation because the researcher is part of the respondent, is part of the setting. That is participant observation. Is it clear? We have the covert system and the overt system. When we go further, we'll get to it anyway. So for participant observation, it involves the researcher establishing a strong personal relationship or rapport with the respondent in order to experience their lives. So by collecting data in this way, researchers have greater freedom to study people in their normal settings. The results are more likely to show how people really behave and what they really believe. So for qualitative data, like the participant observation, because I am here right now, we have created a rapport that makes me to know you more and you started to know me more. So whatever you do, whatever your behaviors are, whatever your attitudes are, they can be the real you because you are free now to open to me. I'm no more like a stranger, like the first days, the first few days. So with participant observation, because you know more about the respondents, the settings you're going to be will be a normal setting.
Yeah.
So that means everyone can behave in their natural way.
Natural, yeah.
So that is what quantitative data will bring about, qualitative data will bring about. Then, what is the problem about qualitative data? Quantitative research focuses on the intensive study of relatively small groups, which may limit the opportunity for applying the data more widely. Such groups may not be representative of anything but themselves. It is also difficult to compare qualitative data across time and location because no two groups will ever be qualitatively the same. The depth and the details of the data also make such research difficult to replicate, so it is not reliable. Which means their reliability is generally lower than that of quantitative research. So the problem about qualitative research is, one, you can't carry out qualitative research with large numbers of people. Yeah. It has to be for a specific group of people. So that means it is limited. Yeah. And because it's for a specific group of people, it means it cannot be generalized. Do you know what generalization means here? Like, you can't use the results of this
to everyone. Yeah.
You cannot use it.
Yeah.
You cannot use the results of just few people to decide the whole population. Yeah. So that's the first point there. And you cannot have it replicated. People are dynamic. So attitude, belief, behavior is different. And every now and then it changes based on different situations. As a result, the individual who you have today, and the course of me carrying out a research about you, might not be the same person tomorrow if I'm carrying out the same research about you. The response you give to me today might be different from the response tomorrow because your mood might have switched or things might have changed within that short period of time. So that makes it not to be easy to be replicated. And because it cannot be replicated, it means it is not reliable unlike quantitative data. Because quantitative data is about figures, and figures are factual. So we cannot change them. We cannot be subjective with figures, but we can be subjective with opinions, behaviors.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yes.
For quality, and last thing here, it's not written, but I just have to tell you. One problem again about qualitative data is that it is subject to different narrations. Do you get the point? It is subject to different narration.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm telling you now, you might split it into different meanings. But for quantitative data, it is not like that. My one will always be my one. My 100 will always be your. My 100 will always be your 100. It is specific. Is it clear? So that's about quantitative and qualitative data. Any question about that?
No.
So we're going to official statistics up to now.